Why do you think that gender ideology specifically is so dangerous? Because there's a lot of people out there, of course, including advocates and apologists, who would say that, hey, why does this bother you? Let people live their lives, let people do what they want to do, believe what they want to believe, and so on. What specifically do you think is the greatest threat about this idea?
Yeah, I think a lot of, probably most opponents of gender ideology, when you ask that question, they usually will say something about the way that it affects kids, what it's doing to women, all that kind of stuff, and all of that is really important, and all that factors into why I care about this so much and why I think it's so important. But that's not the underlying reason why this is important. The underlying reason is that gender ideology is an assault on truth, and truth matters for its own sake. There's an inherent value to truth, and when something threatens truth, or not, you can't really. Truth is truth. You can't threaten it. You can't do anything about it. But when something threatens to such a degree, threatens our ability to perceive and understand truth on a collective level, then that's enough reason to consider it a grave threat to civilization. And I use the comparison all the time that what if there was a movement out there gaining steam to convince everyone that squares are circles? There's a spectrum of squareness and circleness, and really they're the same in the end, or whatever. Now, if that was, I don't walk around every day thinking about squares and circles. I don't care that much about geometry. But if this movement was happening, then I'd be out there fighting against it and say, no, squares are squares, and circles are circles. Now I care because this is a basic truth of reality that you are waging assault against. And I don't want to live in a world where we don't know the difference between squares and circles. And then, not to go too far with this analogy, but at first it becomes this abstract matter of truth. Okay, but then if you actually abandon this truth and say, oh, it doesn't matter, squares are circles and circles are squares, then you start to see the real practical implications. Yes. Because how do you have, how do you build anything? How do you have architecture in a world where no one understands geometry, right? Next thing you know, buildings are collapsing on people's heads.